ACCUCARE Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine in Brick, New Jersey offers a state-of-the-art facility with all the best and current treatments. With athletic trainers, massage therapists, and doctors of physical therapy, ACCUCARE has everything you need to stay healthy and perform at the highest level. Cupping, stretching, laser therapy, compression boots, and a full-body cryo chamber are just some of what you can expect at ACCUCARE. Check out their website and social media links in my bio. No prescription is needed to see them. So call them today and start feeling and performing at your best. Again, thank you to AccuCare for sponsoring the Shore Football Report. Welcome to the Shore Football Reports Week 4 edition. I'm Rob Davis, Scott Stump over there. Scott, what a week. What a week.
Yeah,
The Jets.
I feel like we're getting into the meat of the season now. You know, the division races are really heating up. There were some big upsets this week. A lot to talk with on that. We got another monster game coming up on Friday. Like, it feels like the season now is really in full swing, and teams are going to have to start making their playoff pushes. The division title races are coming down to the wire here in a few places. So, yeah, this is a great time of year. The middle of this month to the middle of October is the most fun part of the season outside of, obviously we care about the state championships players, but this is when all teams, for the most part, still have some hope.
Right. Yeah. Before we go on, I want to thank AccuCare again for everything they do. It's getting so busy at AccuCare with the recovery sessions. They're getting so many more new athletes getting in there, and AccuCare has definitely got the reputation, and it's getting even bigger and bigger with all the athletes going there. So I want to thank them again for everything they do. But this week was very special because the Jets, Giants, and also I'm going to include my Dallas Cowboy fans, even though I don't like them. They all won in the same day. I don't think that happened since 1922.
I mean, the Jets and Giants winning on the same day is like basically Haley's Comet level of rare. I mean, and for it to both happen like quickly, obviously the Jet win was absolutely insane.
It's great.
So that was a good capper to a fun football weekend.
Yeah.
Monmouth University got a big win over Georgetown on Saturday. Another good local squad. It was a great weekend of football, and it was beautiful. I mean, if we could bottle up this weather and keep it going all the way till about Halloween, that would be nice.
Yeah, indeed, man. I got to see a couple games this weekend. You got to see a big game, of course, on Friday night. So we have a lot to talk about. So let's kind of like keep it. We'll talk about those stuff later on. But the one thing I do want to say is that there seems to be an outcry of the what do you call it? The fan section. Everybody's got these different names. They dress up. They do all these different things. But I think it's getting a little bit out of control at times because there's a lot of trash talking going on in social media, and it leads into meeting up at the concession stand or even in the stands. Fights in the stands is unheard of when I played. Now they're stopping games to make sure that the cops know that there's a fight in the student section. So I'm pleading out there that all the student section people to make sure that you guys keep everything good because there's kids out there, parents bringing their little kids and all that. They don't want to go there for a fight. They want to go there for a football game. And that's what it's all about.
Well, and school spirit is great. you just don't want to take it too far.
Too far.
You know, don't ruin a good thing, and don't ruin, you know, a special night when you all come out and, like you said, dress up and it's a great atmosphere, but you can get spoiled pretty quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were at a game where that did happen. This weekend. I hadn't seen it personally, you know, at any games yet, but I have, you know, some loud and crazy student sections. But you've already seen a couple fights at multiple games. I don't know what's going on. Everywhere you're going, there seems to be some sort of fight club following you.
Am I trash talking? That's escalating some stuff.
Right, what's going on?
Yeah, I did hear this is for you, Shore Football Report, and then a couple punches being heard. But I got eyes and ears in the stands now because my daughters now go into student sections and they're all over. So she kind of tells me a little too much stuff I don't want to hear. But
Right.
yeah, now that she's going to be in the student sections for various high school games, I'm going to hear the inside scoop of the fan section. So let's get going. Let's get right into the recap. All right, we got a lot to talk about.
And when we're talking the games that featured the most highly ranked teams, the one I was at on Friday night was number 1 RBC, number 3 Middletown South at the time, and you think that's showed kind of the gap, I would say, between the top of the top and the next. RBC 35-0, and you could almost kind of tell from the first quarter that this was a mismatch. You know, our RBC's defense was incredible. I mean, Middletown South, which is a pretty solid offense, had under 100 total yards. I think 85 yards. The RBC defense's ability to close on the ball, you know, just when you think you have some space, you have some opening, they're right on top of it. I mean, we know Savino Portella as a great running back, but he's also one of the best safeties in the Shore Conference, if not the best. I mean, at one point, he leaped in the air and volleyball spiked a pass into the ground because he was all over it. I mean, they had, you know, the Middletown South offense just on their heels the whole game. On the other side of the ball, Emmanuel Ross looked every bit the part of the high-level FBS recruit. He's got 11 offers. He just took a visit to Clemson the weekend before the game. He had 2 touchdown catches, one where he just got behind the defense, another where he took a short pass, made a few juke moves, ran, you know, 35 yards or so. He looked really impressive. Najee Rahman caught a touchdown pass, so that's the other thing. You start moving the safety over to Ross's side, well, they got a guy on the other side who can absolutely hurt you. Frankie Williams was really efficient again. You know, I think he only threw 2 incomplete passes in the whole game. So he looked good. And one player that stood out to me besides the obvious guys that we all know about was Rob Stolfa. He had a really nice punt return that helped set up a touchdown. He had another nice kickoff return, a few long pass plays. He's really good in space, you know, laterally. He can shake guys. There were 2 or 3 guys right in front of his face, and he was getting separation and getting yards. He's definitely another weapon they have. I mean, and then, yeah, they have Portella slamming the ball up the middle, and then Torrin Harmon running out to the perimeter. There's just too many people to try and cover, and their line just dominated up front. I mean, that game combined with what Donovan Catholic did to Manalapan just made it really apparent to me that it feels like there's 3 teams, Donovan, RBC, and Toms River North, that just seem like on another level from the rest of the Shore Conference. Yeah. Even though I would put Point Borough maybe right in that next tier below them, Rumson, but those 3 teams to me just seem like there's a big gulf from 3 to 4.
Every year there's a drop off at a certain spot, and I think you hit it on the head with those 3 teams. You know, Red Bank Catholic, which is they don't have huge statistics because they spreading the ball around and the game gets out of hand a little bit, running clock. But Williams was their question mark going into the season, the outstanding sophomore. 73% completion, 11 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Not bad. 5 touchdown receptions by Emmanuel Ross. He's got only 9 catches, but almost 200 yards, 5 touchdowns.
No, it was funny. I was talking to him after the game, and I said, there's so many stars on this team. You must feel like when you do get the ball, you got to make something happen. You got to put it in the end zone. He said, you're right. You know, this is a team where you have to capitalize on your opportunities because there's so many other options where the quarterback can go with the ball.
Yeah.
That, like, when you touch it, you better make something happen because, you know, they'll just go to someone else if you're not producing. And but yeah, he definitely looked like if you showed up at that game and you said, well, there's one guy on here that has 11 FBS offers that's, you know, the top guy, you would have noticed him pretty soon. And even though, again, he didn't touch the ball a ton, because they have so many other weapons, and because it was running clock and all that, the game was kind of shortened. But yeah, RBC was as impressive as you could ask for the number one team. And just like Donovan was as impressive in their win, over Manalapan. So that sets up the huge game that we'll get to later in the preview. But you went to a game that actually turned out just like we thought. An all-out shootout between two good quarterbacks, Brick Memorial and Ocean. I mean, Tyler Douglas, what a performance.
My fingers were hurting from tweeting. I don't think anybody was listening to my tweets except you. So next time I'm just going to text you because I'm tweeting things out. Does it hurt anybody to like my stuff, please? But I'm tweeting out Tyler Douglas touchdown run, and all of a sudden Connor Dietz does it, and then this guy does. Right. I mean, it was a shootout, and Tyler Douglas is everything that you would think he was. 473 yards total offense, 7 touchdowns, but he's a dude. And he freelances a lot because he kind of makes things happen off of broken plays, and he's either going to run it or he can run it down your throat, or he could throw it deep too.
Now, I mean, obviously, I wasn't following everything last year. What is different about him this year that's made him so dominant compared to what he was last year?
Mateo Andrews. That's the big difference. Mateo Andrews is a guy that can take it to the house wherever he's at. He had 3 catches for, I think, 170-something yards, 3 touchdowns. He's a dude. He's a dude. But they're healthy. That's the thing, too. They're healthy. They're playing good football, and they're back to Big Red football. They really are. But don't count out Brick Memorial. Connor Dietz is also a good talent. He had over 300 yards passing, and they wouldn't go away. A turnover in the red zone. They didn't capitalize on a 4th down play. So they were right in there. They were really fighting to the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's just got to be frustrating for them defensively. They're struggling so much defensively. I mean, what was the score? It was 49-35.
Ben Gerard, the inside linebacker.
49-33. Yeah, I mean, it's like they just need to clean up their defensive side of the ball because that's really just hurt them in their big games this year.
Scott, you're right. They gave up 33 points, but they also stopped them at the goal line. Ben Gerard ripped the ball out of Connor Dietz's hand at the goal line and got a fumble recovery out of it. Great defensive play, but you're right. They're giving up a lot of yards and points, but they're also scoring it. At some point, they're going to have to stop people and just win games 30-something, nothing, and all that.
I have to say right now, again, it's still relatively early, but when you're talking offensive player of the year in the short conference, Tyler Douglas has to be right near the front of that conversation. I mean, I know Tom Zerber-North's got some guys, RBC, Donovan, and all that, Point Burrow, but you'd have to put Douglas right in that conversation after his performance these first couple weeks.
100%. I would consider him almost like an MVP of the short conference because he does it at safety. He's a quarterback. He kicks. He does it all. So that's something big with him. But
and not only that, we also should mention that for that division race, that puts Ocean in the driver's seat with that victory. To me, they are the favorite to lock down that's the Freedom Division, I believe.
Yep.
So that victory, I think, puts them as the clear favorite to wrap up that division title.
100%.
Which is, a big jump forward for them after a few seasons of some up and down play and some struggles being a young team. So it looks like they're back to the Ocean of old, a championship level type contender. Speaking of another game that had important divisional implications, you went to a wild one on Saturday, Big Kaboo Warrior Field. Manasquan goes for 2 and the win in overtime. Raritan gets the stop and walks away with a 1 point.
I didn't realize it. I forgot, but Manasquan beat them last year in overtime at Raritan, 35-28.
Right, and they rallied just to get that game into overtime. I mean, I remember that Raritan was in control of that game. Swan roared back and beat them. So now this time, Raritan gets their revenge.
Raritan came back. Patton didn't play. Detlinger didn't play. They did a nice job. Jameer Howard looked great. Took the kickoff for a touchdown, 88 yards in the beginning.
No, I mean, that's a testament to Manasquan and how many key people they're missing that they took them to the absolute brink like that.
Yeah, but speaking on Raritan, though, that was a big program win. They're 3-0 for the first time since 2015. I love Logan Goldsberry, right? Yeah. He had a great game making his reads, but I loved his third phase, the option part that he was hitting foul zone and KLINE, and they were just in stride, running down the sidelines. I think he's the key to the team because his quarterback development has been so impressive the last couple of weeks that was one of their concerns. Who's their quarterback? So
Right.
3-0 heading into next week, which is a big game we'll talk about later. But that was a huge win going for. But I give him credit, Coach from Manasquan, Bryce, that he went for 2 at the end. 28-27.
Were you surprised by that decision in the sense that they were home and that they had, sent the game into overtime?
Well, his kicker was out. Detlinger's out. They did make an extra point earlier with the guy, but everybody was sweating it out. I liked his call. We're going to win it or lose it in 2 yards. The play action over the middle got deflected. It was a great game. It was a great atmosphere, and Raritan is on a roll.
No, yeah. Whenever those two teams play, it always seems to come down right to the end, and it didn't disappoint again. And that's just a huge win for Raritan playoff seeding wise. You think? I know Manasquan doesn't have a win yet, but they're going to pick up some. So that's definitely going to help them moving forward. And right now, you'd have to put them just behind Point Borough, along with St. John Vianney, as like the main challengers to Borough in that division. We'll talk about that game coming up, another big one. But yeah, it was a great win by the Rockets.
How about this win over in Manahawkin, Southern Regional? I mean, an inexperienced team had a couple injuries. Chuck didn't know what to think of his team. He said, we got to get better week to week. Well, he just shocked ashore and beat the number 7 ranked team, Long Branch, 7-0. 7-0, picked off a pass in the corner of the end zone with a cup under a minute, and the place went crazy. That was one of the biggest.
Yeah, I mean, their pass defense played amazing, right?
Yeah.
3 interceptions.
Like
you said. One, Dom Criselli, I think, right in the end zone under a minute to go. That was one of those games where you kept seeing the score update, and it kept not changing, and you kept waiting. Oh, well, Long Branch will probably tie it.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. And then you're like, no, Southern got the shutout. That's a tremendous just program win for them. Great job. Again, one of our previous assistant coach of the week winners, Matt Abato's defense, got 4 turnovers, including clutch turnovers in the fourth quarter to preserve that victory. Southern, that was an eye-opener. I mean, I think that not a lot of people have that one, but Xander Murray and Andy Folletta also had interceptions.
Armando's
with a pair of sacks. They really just stepped up big in a game that I don't think a lot of people necessarily gave them a big chance in.
Remember this name, Armando Sanchez, defensive end, offensive guard. He was player of the week for us on defense.
He had a couple sacks too, right?
Couple sacks.
Fumble recovery.
The thing that's impressive is Southern went to that new style offense. That's keeping the clock going. They're not moving the ball a whole bit, but they're playing outstanding defense. So they're going through some growing pains, but they're winning, and they beat a real big, highly rated team.
That wasn't the only upset of the week. No. That one came in, and then there was another one right behind it.
Colts Neck?
Yeah.
Now I think
that division people there was a thought of it's probably Jackson and maybe Marlboro, and Colts Neck was like, let's not get crazy. Don't forget about us.
I talked to Coach Ahern after the game, and I said, why didn't you kick a field goal? He goes, we were preparing for it, but we just happened to score at the end and all that, which was a good call.
You talk about confidence in your run game. He scored, Scully scores with 2.9 seconds up. Yeah. Technically, if he got tackled before the end zone,
done.
They're probably, so that was a little bit of a gamble. But knowing Matt Ahern, I can't think of any coach that trusts the run game more than him. And again, if you have Scully, why not? I mean, he's one of the best running backs in the short.
That division is wide open.
Right.
One of the few ones wide open. Colts Neck just opened the door for.
That's a huge win as far as Marlboro's chances. Yeah. But still, Marlboro has to go through Howell, Colts Neck, and Jackson. So there's a long way to go. You could easily see that being like a tri-championship where this team beat that team, beat the other team. But we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, those were definitely the two big, upset wins of the week. And
then don't forget Corey Davies. Never, ever count him out. When he has a down game, you put money on it that he's going to come back, and he had a great game plan and shocked Howell, the number 17th ranked team. 26-13. Mark Aguayo had a great game, 2 touchdown passes. But I think that Howell has problems with that style of offense because it gave him fits. It gave him
And I
fits.
also just think getting their junior wide receiver,
Sean Corrado.
back. I
Yeah.
know he'd been banged up and injured.
Yeah.
He had some big plays in the game. He had a touchdown catch. Chase Enlow, another 2 touchdowns. Their running back, he's having a nice season. But yes, that was a big bounce back win for Freehold Township, and also, again, we keep harping on playoff seeding and power rankings, but that's another one of those games where that was a swing type game when you're trying to get a state playoff berth. That's a huge one to get. So that was a great job by the Patriots there.
Also, congratulations to somebody who just won his first game, but not as an assistant, as a head coach, Jeremy Schulte. Rumson got on the win column this year, and I have a feeling Coach Schulte is going to win a couple more games in his career. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think he at Rumson. Yeah, you just step in and the wins keep coming. As the way they've set that program, they do such a great job, and they have such continuity on their staff. But a 44-20 win over Wall, I thought that was a real breakout game. Their sophomore quarterback, Owen O'Toole, 223 yards passing and 5 TDs, including a pair of touchdowns to Nick Rigby. So I think Rumson is going to become a team that later in the season, no one is going to want to play them. Because O'Toole's a sophomore, he's getting more confidence every week. He's spreading the ball around to 4 or 5 different wide receivers. They have good backs.
Yep.
They are, I think, with each passing game, getting back to the old Rumson a little bit more dangerous. So, yeah, I think that that's a big confidence win for them. And, yeah, congrats. And it's rare in the short conference to see a father and son getting wins. Jerry Schulte, Jeremy's dad, led them to state championships, longtime head coach and assistant. I mean, you think of Ron Signorito Sr. and Jr., Chip LaBarca Sr. and Jr. There's not a ton of father and son head coach, combinations in the shore. So that's a nice little feather in the cap for that.
And we're going to talk playoff scenarios in another show. But they're Group 2. They get double multiplier. We'll speak about that another time. They will be a very dangerous team. Don't be surprised if they're a 1 or 2 seed in any of the brackets there. How about
talk about a coach getting his first win? How about a coach getting his 200th win?
Dude, he's old.
Mark Costantino, Shore Regional.
His 200th win. He likes to make people think that he's young, but 200 wins gives it away. He's been there a long time. Won 58-0 in a game, and Shore is just reloading, and they're going to be very good. They'll be contending for another championship in the Patriot Division. 200 wins is a big credit to him because he's got it.
He's only the 9th coach in short conference history to reach that milestone. I mean, when you start getting in there with the Big Caboose and the Warren Wolves, and the one guy I identify most with Kaz is Mike Ciccatelli, the former legendary coach at Keyport, because he and Kaz had a bunch of great battles over the years, Keyport versus Shore, seemingly all the time for division titles and the state playoffs. Mark has won 4 state titles, 7 division titles, and competing for another division title this year. I remember that 2015 Shore team that went 12-0. That to me is the best team, the best Shore team I had ever seen. At Shore Regional. I don't know if he probably doesn't want to get anybody angry by pointing out which one was the best, but no, that's an amazing milestone. And again, if you're in that conversation with those guys, you're definitely doing some great things.
Yeah, he was all smiles after that game. He really was. So congratulations, Coach Kaz, with that. So now he's got to work on 300. So
he'll be Grandpa Kaz by that point.
Great. Let's talk about Point Borough, though, real quickly, though. Point Borough, number 5 ranked team, kind of just was rolling again against a Homedale team. We talked about, it was going to be a quick game. It was going to be all that. They did what they had to do. They won 41-10. They seem like they're rolling in a big collision, and we'll talk about it later with them playing Raritan. Connor Siliento is one of those guys who touches the ball a couple times but has big highlight plays. He had 108 yards rushing on 2 touchdowns. I think it's great when they do it, though. When they run that option and the guy runs it for a touchdown, they do a great job of reading it. They really do. Point Borough. They're just clicking right now. They're playing aggressive.
That offense is most deadly when you have 3 guys that you all really have to respect, and they have them. They have Salento as the slot back on the perimeter. They have Jake Croce as the fullback crashing up the middle, who also has some breakaway speed. And then they have Matt Olfan as like a game-breaking runner at quarterback. So there's not a guy that you just think well, we can live with him getting the ball a couple times. We'll be fine. Fine. We're going to throw everyone at Oliphant. Make him give the ball up. Well, those other two guys might each put up 100 yards, and you get beat. So yeah, they have the perfect personnel for that offense.
It was 41-3 at half. They finished the game 41-10. They're doing what they got to do. And
in that same division, another big win, St. John Vianney. Watch out! That's now 3 in a row, and this one was 30-0 over Monmouth Regional. I think in the preseason they were a little bit of an unknown because of the transfers and all the stuff. So you thought, okay, Point Borough, Manasquan, Raritan, those are kind of like, Point Borough's the front runner, and the other two will be chasing them. Watch out, Vianney's now right in that conversation and in that mix as a team looking to step up and challenge Point Borough for that division. Kyle Various is having an all-shore season every single week.
Yeah.
He's making huge plays, 30-yard touchdown catch, pick 6 in this game. And Aaron Van Tree stepping in after Rosado, their starting quarterback, transferred right before the season. And he's done a really nice job. He had 3 total touchdowns. And not only, I think the most encouraging thing is, the defense had such a dominant effort, limiting Julian Jones under 100 yards rushing and getting the shutout. They seem like week by week they're gaining more confidence.
Kyle Varese, I have him ranked as one of the top 2023 receivers, but he's not playing receiver. He's playing running back, and he's catching the ball out of the backfield and doing all that. But Coach Papkin,
he's kind of their Swiss Army knife guy.
Coach Papkin and his staff's done a great job, because if you've seen him week 1 or week 0, they didn't look very good against Red Bank Catholic, but nobody really is. And they kind of got better and better and better. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and they're excited, and they look like they have a chance, make some noise in that division.
And another team that's picking up a little bit of steam, Middletown North, 28-10 over Lacey. Luke Sheehan, another 4 touchdown passes.
He's good.
So he's looking like we thought he would. After the tough game against Manalapan to start the year, they're starting to get a little bit of momentum.
Jack Lopez, one of the best 2-way linemen out there in the short conference, a Division I.
You don't want to be a negative, but the 2 teams North has beaten, Central and Lacey, are combined winless.
Yeah.
So the jury's, they still have to prove it. They have that chance because they're playing a Southern team coming off that win over Long Branch.
Huge game.
So we're going to get some questions answered on that front, I feel like, this week.
Huge game.
Yeah. So, those to me, those are the real standout games. Red Bank Regional got their first win of the year, 31-12 over Toms River South. And Toms River East, their first win of the year over Pinelands. So good to see teams breaking in the win column. One other team worth mentioning, I think, is Matawan. We talked a lot about Manchester's good start. Matawan went in there and beat them 36-6.
They're young. They're young and exciting. Amir Martinez at quarterback. Colin Palumbo as a running back, a sophomore. We know about Nick Windsor, the outstanding tackle, defensive lineman, but they have a kid, Jaden Elijah, who is 6'6", 300 pounds. He's a sophomore. I'm telling you right now, he will be a D1 D1 scholarship kid by next year. They are mammoth at the 2 tackles. They really
are.
Well,
the other thing is you look at their schedule, right? They have a chance to be 5-1 going into their game against Middletown South next month. They play Pinelands, Homedale, who's still searching for their first win, and Toms River East, who just got a win. Those are 3 winnable games for them. They could very easily be 5-1 going into the game against South. So, they're a team to keep an eye on here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and in that division, Barnegat went to 2-1, beat a Jackson Liberty team. JoJo Bivens had a big day, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. They're playing well, and them and Matawan look like the 2 teams in that Liberty division. Or East can say something about that with the bounce.
I would say the most exciting game of the week. You were at Saturday had 2 incredible games. You were at one of them, the Raritan Manasquan game. But Keyport 33, Point Beach 30, back and forth, one explosive play after another. Point Beach hits a 76-yard touchdown to take the lead. A 79-yard touchdown, I think, with a minute and change left. But then Naz Treadwell, the great running back for Keyport, takes a screen pass and takes that 62 yards to the house in the final minute. I mean, what a thriller in that division.
Yeah, I mean look at they bounced back from week 0 loss. Now they're going to be playing Shore, you know, in a big when they do play in a big game. Nazir Treadwell is an outstanding tailback and defensive back too. Great player right there. Barnegat won, like we said. How about Marlboro quietly 54-0 to Freehold? Like nobody, I'm sure they didn't play a lot of their starters in that game. They're on a roll. They're on a roll. I mean, being ranked number
Yeah, I
12.
think we'll definitely get into more talking about Marlboro when we're looking at this week's coming games. But the second straight year they've started 3-0. So yeah, Freehold obviously is really struggling at this point. They're just trying to find any consistency and find get their defense in gear to try to get some stops. I mean, they've given up at least 50 points in all 3 of their games. But they're young and they don't have a ton of depth. So yeah, every year there's some teams that are just taking their lumps a little bit and learning, and you just hope that this is all fodder for next year for them to come back and be stronger and make strides.
It's hard to recover sometimes. Yep.
Right. And you look at the same thing, Neptune. They're another team still searching for their first win. They did give Brick a run. Brick 16-8 over them. That was an important win for the Green Dragons as they kind of start to make their playoff push. But yeah, I mean, I think that when you look back on this week, though, the 2 games that stand out are those 2 big upsets. And, RBC and Donovan setting themselves apart from 2 good teams and setting up a huge, huge game that we'll be talking about coming up.
Jaden Johnson from Brick, though, is a sophomore that is going to be heard of in the next couple of years. I mean, he had a reverse for a touchdown, created 16-0. I think Neptune's going to be getting better as the weeks go on. They don't have a lot of players on their team. They're all playing a lot of both ways, but they are getting better. Tom's River North had a huge win. Huge win.
64-0. Yeah, I mean, against a winless team. I think what you're going to find is they're going to have – it's like a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. Tom's River North is going to be heavily favored in all their remaining regular season games. I mean, I would say they're 4 touchdowns better looking at their schedule than all those teams, and that's not totally a knock on those teams. That's just how good Tom's River North is.
That's how good they are.
But the point is, you're caught between, and this is an interesting thing as a coach. You want to get your guys work into the second half, but you don't want to get the other coach fired up by feeling like you're running it up on him. So, I mean, how do you get guys their reps knowing, hey, we can't have guys playing one half for the whole rest of the season, because if we're in a dogfight in the 4th quarter in November, and guys haven't played in that scenario in a month and a half, that could be a problem. But on the other hand, you don't want, like you said, you don't want to aggravate people by feeling like, oh, you're throwing the ball on me and you're up, 50-0, and you're thinking, well, our quarterback's only attempted 3 passes in the game. I got to get him some work.
Scott, I mean, when you're in games like this, I've been on the winning end of it and also losing it. Not as much as that, but it's not fun. It's not fun for both teams. It's not fun for the team that's losing, and for the other team, those kids want to play. They practice all week. They, they think they're getting scholarships, and all of a sudden they're getting pulled out in the first quarter, or maybe the play calling is going to be a little bit more different, a little more cautiously, one thing, and everybody has sour pusses on, and they're, hey guys, we won 48 or 60 something to nothing, but the younger kids get to play, but the guys that are seniors and all that, some of them, it's just not fun. It's just not fun in a lot.
And again, you have this eye on the postseason. Their goal is to win it all group 4. So, like, how do you prepare your team? But, in other words, down in South Jersey, they're playing a dogfight every week in those divisions. And, up in Central Jersey, they're having battles. So how do you prepare your team when the team you're facing in the playoffs, they're used to playing 4 quarters all out, whereas your guys really haven't done that since, maybe this second game of the season.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened in that game, but the score is 64-0. I'm sure it wasn't a battle it sounds like it was a landslide a little bit right there. But that. And then the last game was Lakewood versus Camden Mastery Charter. Camden Mastery Charter, 54-42. What a shootout.
I mean, I guess, obviously that's a tough game for Lakewood because you think that that's a team you might be able to get a win against, but you did put 42 points on them. So there's certainly some positives you can take away offensively from that game, even though you didn't get the win. There's something to build on, and your guys at least confident, hey, we can score 40 points on somebody. That's got to at least help going.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Camden Mastery Charter. I tried looking them up. They're kind of an unknown, but I do know Lakewood, and LJ will have those guys fighting to the end. And I think they're a scary team in that division because they can score points.
This might be the most movement we've had in the Klein Brothers coaches top 20 all season long. Two great upsets, and other ranked teams, meeting up. RBC solidified their number one spot, and Middletown South kind of got dinged a little bit because of how lopsided it was, 35-0 for the Casey's. Those top three teams now, Donovan Catholic at 3. I think, to me, those are the three. They've really separated themselves. But the big movers of the week, Raritan and Ocean. I mean, you saw Ocean.
Yeah.
They're now jumping into the top 10 here.
Well, I could see how impressed people because they were really clicking dynamic plays. So they jumped up 5 spots. I thought Southern moving up 6 also says a lot from the coaches out there in the shore, believing in them. Raritan moved up.
They got a win over a Long Branch team that was number 7, and a shutout win.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely impressed the voters a little bit. You see Rumson kind of ticking back upwards after their win over Wall. I think people feel like they'll be right back in their customary spot there in the top 5 or 6. We got a big one coming up with Point Borough, number 4, against Raritan, number 8 there. That's a big divisional game. Borough, I would say, the strong favorite in that game, but still a good ranked matchup. And how about Marlboro now, a top 10 team? That's a little bit of rarefied air for them. I mean, this is a program that's only had 6 winning seasons in the history of their program.
Now they're on a roll.
Started in 1968. So, I mean, this is their chance to really grab the spotlight. I think they're one of the better stories. The thing is, now the gauntlet starts. They have Howell and they have other hard, Jackson, Colson. They have a lot of difficult games coming up in a row. So we're going to find out how for real they are.
Scott, when you're chasing people, you surprise people when you're winning. They're not surprising anybody anymore. So they got now their target on their back, so people are going after them. I'm curious.
I mean, they're the favorite. Howell this week would love nothing more than to spoil it for them after losing to Freehold Township last week. And I mean, I know the transitive property doesn't always work in football, but Freehold Township just beat Howell by 2 touchdowns, and Marlboro beat Freehold Township by 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think Marlboro's the favorite to get the win there, but you never know with these Freehold regional district rivalries what could happen. But this is shaping up to be a special season for Marlboro. I mean, a 4-0 start, that would be something. I mean, their best season ever. The only division title they ever won was 1994.
When they won
that in perspective, that was the fall season after I graduated from high school, so it was a million.
Yeah, and St. John Vianney moved up 4 slots with a 3-game winning streak, winning people over. So, a lot of teams, there is going to be a lot of movement. And, this is going to be different in the next couple of weeks too. And that's why we played on the field. But look at the difference between Manalapan and Rumson. 1 point by the coaches. Yeah. 1 point. So everybody thinks that that's going to be a huge game.
Well, the good thing is with teams like that, they're going to settle it on the field.
Yeah.
They play each other. So, that to me is always a good thing when it's not just a paper argument. It will actually get settled in a game. And then obviously we got the monster one coming up. Number 1 RBC versus number 3 Donovan Catholic. And let's end this. I'll ask you the hypothetical. If Donovan Catholic beats RBC, do they jump Toms River North for number 1 in your mind?
That was a tough one, and thank God the coaches are picking the top 20, so yes. I can hide behind that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is great for me. When I was in the doing my other websites and working for the press, the media had to take the brunt of it. Now the coaches can make this.
Here's my answer to that: if Donovan beats Red Bank Catholic, and I'm not going to say impressively, because if they beat them by 1 point, that's impressive.
Right.
They have a legitimate shot to be the number 1 team there. But the unfortunate thing is Donovan and North will never play each other. They
Right.
played in a scrimmage, but it's a scrimmage, and it was a very evenly matched. I think North won by one time, but it was evenly matched scrimmage right there. That's a tough one, and that's a tough one. We don't have that short conference tournament like we did a couple years ago, so that is a tough one. This Donovan Catholic
theoretically have the scenario where, say they win, they make it to the state playoffs unbeaten, they lose to Bergen Catholic, who's the number one team in the state and a nationally ranked team, perennial juggernaut, and then Toms River North goes undefeated. I'm sure the argument will be, hey, Toms River North, they're the group champions, the first group champions. They should get it. They didn't lose a game. But meanwhile, Donovan Catholic, we're going to say, well, we have more quality wins, and the team we lost to would beat any team in the short conference.
Well, the only thing I can agree with you, there will be an argument.
Yes. That's what we love, though. So you have to keep checking back every week to see how it goes.
All right, we're going to talk Raritan Rocket football with Raritan head football coach, Coach Anthony Petruzzi, and Raritan star senior inside linebacker, Matt Agar. Guys, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach, for having us.
We are going to get you in and out of here because you got a big week, big game this weekend. A lot to talk about, so let's just get right into it. You're currently 3-0, number 8 ranked team in the coach's top 20. You played 3 close games against Matawan, Monmouth, and Manasquan. And I was at the game last week where you won a thriller, 28-27 at their place, avenging the loss from last year where you lost in overtime there. Coaches, how great of a win was that for you and your program, beating Manasquan with that 28-27 win? Matt?
I mean, I think everybody in the short conference would agree that when you go down to Manasquan, that's a tough place to win. It doesn't happen often. They defend their home field. It's a special place to play. So coming out with a victory was rewarding, especially in the manner that we had to do it in. So it wasn't a pretty game. Both teams fought hard. Both teams fought through injuries. But it's always great to go down there and get a win. I have a lot of respect for Coach Price and what they do down in Manasquan. So they're never gonna make it easy for you.
Right, Matt. Well, how was it for you and the players?
Yeah, I mean, no one on our team has played on Saturday. No one's played at their place, so it was pretty amazing to beat them at their place in OT like it was last year. So it's pretty special.
I would love being on the sidelines, watching both you guys playing. A lot of excitement, and when you guys won in overtime, what a moment, Coach. You're 3-0 for the first time since 2015, and Raritan football to me gets better as the season goes on. What separates this team from your teams in your past that you played in? And let me remind you, in 2015, you won the Central Jersey Group 2 state championship. But you always get your team better as the year goes on, and you're in such a hot start. What is the difference this year than the other years?
Coach, I have to smile with that because in 2015 we did start 3-0. We did win a state championship, but we also lost 5 straight games before going into the playoffs.
Wow.
So the message this year is to keep ourselves even keeled, to understand that every game is important, every practice is important, every snap is important. Championship players are always going to play at a high level no matter what the game is. We're not trying to make this game any bigger than it needs to be. We're concentrating on the next opponent. And what these guys have been able to do early on is just kind of keep within themselves. They have been, they're not riding the roller coaster, and it's a mature team. And that I think is the best part of it right now is that they don't get too high, they don't get too low. I think that's why second half so far this football season we've been able to make some adjustments because the guys are kind of tuned in to the fact that there's work to be done and there's things that they need to get better at.
Matt, would you agree how coaches like this all the time with me on the phone too? He always keeps everything, even keel. He does win, lose, whatever it is. That's why I got a lot of respect for him. Is this 3-0 start something that you guys foreseen, or it's, you guys are just keep playing week to week?
Yeah, like Coach said, we're just focused on next week and the week after that. And like he said, we're a mature group. We got good senior leadership, so I think we'll be fine throughout the season.
Coach, we talked in the preseason, and you loved this team. That's what you stated to me. You had a lot of key returning starters. Matt Agar was one of them. Kieran Falzon, a running back. Danny Calicari slot safety, Tom Jelinowski, center D tackle, and Jack Coleman DN were guys. Then you said we're going to be as good as when other guys step up. We had a bunch of unknown players. I'm going to pick out one player that won me over in the game was your junior quarterback, Logan Goldsberry. Boy, oh boy, did he really step up in a big time game with his reads and his pitches, making foul zone and KLINE look good. Would you agree with me that he really stepped up his game last week?
Yeah, the guys have a saying in the locker room. They're always asking. They're always saying, "Let Goldie cook." So he is the chef out there. He's the chef. He's making the decisions. He can spice it up. He's got to make the right decisions. Coach Damian has a lot of trust, puts a lot of trust in the quarterback position. They're coached hard. And Goldie is making the right decisions right now. His poise, his leadership, the game not becoming too big for him. These were all impressive. They really were. But he trusts in his teammates. We had really outstanding offensive line play. We had guys that had stepped up in roles on the offensive line and at our A-back positions. Multiple guys coming in at wide receiver. So it's a credit to our offensive staff, our quarterback, and really just the guys to be on the same page.
Now, Matt, you're the quarterback of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Nice interception, key part of the game. How important is it for you to know that the offense is in good hands too? Because you're taking care of the defense, having a young quarterback step up with a lot of key starters around him, where he elevated his play with you guys. How important was that? Did you notice that, or did you see that after the game on film?
Yeah, I noticed it. I noticed it after every game. I know he has to be the guy on offense, and before every game, I tell him to relax and have fun, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, you guys look. I mean, that key interception. That's always great when an inside linebacker picks the ball off and gets yardage and changes field position. Changed the momentum a little bit in that game. Great job. Let's speed up to next week right now, where you're going to be playing in a big key Independence Division game. Number 5 ranked football team in the Shore, 3-0 Point Borough, playing the number 8 3-0 Raritan football team. Give me something about Point Borough that I might not know about that you saw on film, Matt.
Don't give him too much.
Not too much.
Yeah. I just know that during practice, I can't think that their offense is like ours, because it's really not. It's a lot faster pace, and I have to see things a lot quicker and make plays.
Right, Coach. Now you have respect for all teams, and now you're kind of Point Borough team that won the South Jersey Group 2 state championship. Loads of guys back coming into your place. What are you expecting from a Point Borough team?
Again, coach has got those guys. They didn't lose a step. They didn't lose a step. They're right where they were last year, or even better. They're physical. They run to the football. They finish blocks. They're runners. Finish runs. So they have a downhill mentality on both sides of the ball. I like to think we have a downhill mentality as well. We thought we were on a collision course with them. Last year we both wound up losing to the same team.
Mm-hmm.
But I have, we've played them in playoff games. We played them in our division. It's another situation like a Manasquan, is where the games are always tight. The games are always close. It's going to come down for a couple key plays. Who wants it more? And we have to make sure that we keep our composure. We make it a 4-quarter football game, and believe in ourselves and what we're capable of doing.
Awesome. Matt, there's a lot of respect from the other side too, throwing it your way. They're saying the same thing. Tough football team. You guys are a traditional team that wins all the time. Now, let's talk about the atmosphere. How is it, Matt, in the hallways this week? Is there something different, or is it always like this? And don't lie to me. You could tell me if there's a lot of noise in the hallway. The crowds, your fan group.
Yeah, I know. Coming from my friends, it's definitely a different kind of buzz around the school.
Good.
Talking, undefeateds, but we're not really worried about that. That's for them to worry about. We're just worried about, making big plays and getting a win.
Well, that's what you play for. You play for it to be relevant during the season, play in big games. Coach Petruzzi, you've been involved in a lot of big games as an assistant and a head football coach. And this is where you want to be, Coach. Right? You don't shy away from playing good teams, and you're playing a good one this week.
No, I think I think that's what's special about Raritan football. Whether our division has been, like you say, every time we come on, like, Coach, you got a tough division. We don't want it any other way. Week in and week out, we tell the guys it's like playing the SEC. You have to have your A game. You have to make sure that you have all the boxes checked. And you have to have a great week of practice in order to cash that paycheck, on a Friday night. So, Point Borough is definitely a challenge. They're a good football team. I think they're, a top team not only in the Shore Conference but in the state. They've proved it so far early on in the season, and we have to prepare like it's just any other game. We have to get better tomorrow. We got to get better on Thursday, so we can play our best on Friday. And I'm glad that the fans are getting excited. I'm glad that the parents are getting excited. I'm glad that you're getting excited, because it's important to play and have that extra buzz around, because that's what you do it for. I mean, football is an emotional game, and you want that 12th man in the stands and in the hallways at the home games. And so we're excited to have the opportunity. I tell the guys, when you work hard and you put yourself in that position, you're going to give yourselves opportunities to play in these type of games, and we've been fortunate enough in the last couple of years to do that. This is just another one.
Matt, looking into the crystal ball, I foresee you guys playing in a lot of big games this year, not just this week here. Guys, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. I'm keeping my word. If we're over 12 minutes, it's not because of me. You guys deserve the very best this week, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having
me. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Good luck this week, guys.
But when you're talking week 4, there's a game that on paper should be the Shore Conference game of the year. Number 3, Donovan Catholic at number 1, Red Bank Catholic. Count Basie is going to be rocking on Friday night. And RBC finished number 1 in the Shore last year, and Donovan Catholic definitely thought they had a case, considering they beat RBC head-to-head. And I think they come in with a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove that this is our number 1 spot, that last year we should have been number 1, and we're here to take it from you. There was inclement, awful weather last year that some observers may have said, favored Donovan Catholic, even though both teams are playing in those conditions. But now it's supposed to be a beautiful night on Friday night, no weather issues,
No more.
a field build with FBS level talent, all Shore talent. How do you see? Let's start with, how do you see? These are 2 best defenses in the Shore Conference.
Well, let's talk storyline for a second. One storyline. The one storyline is Red Bank Catholic won a state championship, non-public B.
Right.
Donovan Catholic is in A. Now, there used to have been three sections. So now that put Donovan Catholic with the Bergens, the Boscos, and all them. And Red Bank Catholic plays, the smaller ones there. The enrollment that separates Donovan for Red Bank Catholic is not a lot. So you have Donovan Catholic, which is the smaller A, and you have Red Bank Catholic, which is the larger B. And they're right near the divide. One team wins the state championship. The other team plays Bergen. Donovan Catholic beat Red Bank Catholic 2 years in a row. Now they're playing at RBC. If you don't think there's a chip on the shoulder for both, it's going to be so much excitement.
Well, and these are the 2 preeminent local non-public teams right now, so you have to say they compete for a lot of talent.
Yeah.
How many 7th and 8th graders, stars out there might be on the fence about which way to go, and a game like this nudges their decision in a specific direction. So I think that matters too. But yes, you're right. I think Donovan last year felt like, well, anybody would have lost to Bergen Catholic. How is that a disqualifier for us? And then RBC
That's
went
true.
on to win non-public B. If they had to play them, they would have lost to them too. So yeah, I think they're out to leave no doubt, and RBC is out to leave no doubt and say, keep saying whatever you want last year. We're going to start number 1 this year, and we're going to finish that way. Their goal is an undefeated season. They've never won back-to-back state titles either, so that's in the distance for them. But yeah, this is a monster game. And yeah, you want to talk about talent all over the field. And as much as they have flashy offensive players, you look at the numbers their defenses have put up so far. I mean, they basically completely stifled every single opponent they've played. RBC's starting defense has not allowed a touchdown all year. The only one was St. John Vianney against their backups in the opener. Donovan Catholic just held a good Rumson offense a couple weeks ago to like negative yardage in the first half in a shutout. So, I mean, and just dominated against Manalapan, and Manalapan scored on the last play of the game at, when it's 35-0 at that point. So I think it's how are these teams going to score against these defenses?
When I did the player rankings, position player rankings, a lot of these guys within their own classes were rated at the highest level. Getting to see them all on the same field, I get to evaluate. Okay, there's Emmanuel Ross versus Richard Davis. There's Frankie Williams going against this guy. There is, Najee Calhoun going against. There is so many great.
And don't forget the guys up front, where a lot of this game is going to be won. You got Lorenzo Pertella, Tyler Burnham, the two big, highly recruited linemen for RBC. You got Adam Yevchak, E.J. Smith on the other side. I mean, these guys have been going head to head.
Zaire Day, yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at all short time, you're going to look back at this game and go, how did these guys do when they went straight up against each other?
Aiden Donahue was a D tackle playing, out of his position last year for that state champion team. He's now a DN, and he's wrecking guys. We have two of the top DN guys. You got Donahue. I have Zaire Day off the edge on Donovan Catholic. Interior, you got McGee, Miller. The other side, Samuel Rock. In the trenches, there's going to be some war going on there.
Absolutely.
Davin Bruton.
Both of these teams come out always trying to establish the run. RBC with Savino Portella and Torrin Harmon, and Najee Calhoun's been having a huge season for a freshman, for whatever grade. He's been one of the best running backs in the Shore. So how, who's going to win that battle?
Everybody talks about who's the offensive player here. How about defensive player here? We know about Colin Gallagher. We know he's good and all that. But you got Davin Bruton for RBC, a junior's got a couple offers. And then you got Dante Veneri, the linebacker, middle linebacker for Donovan Catholic, going at it from other sides of the ball. There is going to be a lot of anticipated,
I think you really look at the 2 or 3 electrifying playmakers at wideout who could be the difference in a game like this, a 50-50 ball between them and a D-back. They win the battle, pull it in for a score. In a game like this, that could be, you got Emmanuel Ross for RBC. Multiple FBS offer kids, just like Michael Thomas has an offer from Penn State and a bunch of others for Donovan Catholic, and he's a big playmaker. RBC also has Najee Rahman, another playmaker headed to Brown. So, I mean, like a single play from one of these big-time guys could be the difference. And it was funny. I asked us after the game against Middletown South last week, do you keep your eye on Michael Thomas? Like, do you keep track of the other top wideouts in the Shore? And he said, yeah, I know about him. I know he's a good player. I know, I'm worried mostly about our team and everything. But you can't tell me these players aren't on a stage like this are not going to try to outdo one
another. Now, Red Bank Catholic has got Luke Krezikowski. I think he's coming back where he had to sit out 30 days. He's playing in the game, and he's a top-level player at tight end, a junior, big 6'4", 230-pound tight end that – they don't have film on probably, Donovan Catholic, but you got Ross, Stolfa, and Rahman, 3 dudes. Don't forget Stolfa. He is that guy that can kind of be slippery and make big plays. He really can. I think
and that's the other thing. How many teams have 3 or 4 top-level defensive backs to cover everybody? No. Usually they might have 1 or 2 shutdown guys, college-level guys, scholarship guys, but you don't really have 3 or 4 to where, somebody's third-level guy could be the difference in a game where it's this tightly contested.
Key to the game is Frankie Williams. He can't just sit back and pick people apart. They're going to bring pressure, and they don't have to do it with linebackers because Samuel Rock, as a DN, is really good off the football. So if they can put pressure with not blitzing, I think that would be huge. But if they have to blitz, Dante Veneri's one of the best out there. Zaire Day off the edge.
Well, and again, like you said, I think this is going to be the biggest test for Frankie Williams and Lambertson. Like both quarterbacks are going to probably see more heat than they've seen in any game all year. And can you roll out and make throws on the run? Can you make plays with your legs if you have to scramble for that 5 yards for a first down? Can you get the ball out quick if somebody's bearing down on you? And can you take care of the ball? Because in a game like this, a pick 6 or a bad fumble or something like that from a quarterback that could be the difference.
I think the OCs, Joe O'Connor from RBC and Chippy LaBarker for Donovan Catholic, they're going to be
That's a great
creative.
matchup too.
They're going to be creative, changing the launch pad of where the ball is and all that. So they got a lot of toys, but the other team does. It's going to be exciting to see what the defense does to stifle the offense. But I think it's going to be a defensive game. I don't think it's going to be
I
as.
think both of these teams, they close so fast on the ball, and they're so physical up front. It's really hard to grind out like 10, 12 play drives against these defenses. To me, it's going to be a lot of big plays, and a lot of field position. Punting could be big in this game as far as, hey, we got this team pinned down near the goal line. We get the ball at the 45, 50. Yeah. We only have to get a few first downs. We make a play. That could be the difference in a game like this.
Field position, defense, all that. Maybe I think that it's going to be somebody that you're not expecting that's going to shine in this game, like a Stolfa, which we know is a very good football player. Maybe for Donovan, will it be that freshman Calhoun maybe shining and making his moment? But it's going to be somebody, maybe Lambertson, like you said, or maybe even Kriskowski from RBC. It's going to be somebody else because there are going to be double teams on all these other guys. Somebody's going to be open or going to make a play one-on-one. Has to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be, again, it's like the clash of the Titans in the Shore Conference. It's the biggest regular season matchup we're going to see between any teams in the Shore.
And it's going to be packed. It's hard to park there. I know it is. I'll probably be waiting at the gate on Thursday.
You got to go over to Gianni's Pizza. You get the pepperoni with the little hot honey on it. You knock down a couple of those slices, and then you just pop over to Count Basie. No problem.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll get all that sauce all over my nice Shore Football Report stuff right there. So exciting time, exciting game, big build up. I don't think people are going to be disappointed because you're going to find out who's the biggest parochial school in the Shore Conference after that game.
Yeah, and the team that wins will have really staked their claim potentially to the final number one ranking. Man, this is, other than their state playoff brackets, this is going to be their biggest argument at the end of the season. We won this game. We should be the number one team in the Shore Conference. So I'm interested to see how it turns out.
Great. What other games you like out there?
I think, you look in the American division, you still have, Rumson at Manalapan, two more top 10 teams. Rumson I think this is a huge swing game. And I mean, for Rumson, points-wise, for state playoffs, beating a big school like Manalapan would be huge for them as far as their push to try to get a home game, make Point Borough come to them in the state playoffs. So that's one to look at. Kind of an interesting game given last week's results. Southern, Middletown North. I think Southern coming off the big win over Long Branch, the shutout win. Middletown North gaining some steam with Luke Sheehan throwing 3 or 4 touchdown passes every week here, but against winless teams. Now he's got to do it against a Southern defense that had 3 interceptions last week. Yep. So I think it'll be a really interesting test. And, can the Southern offense muster enough to get the win on their side? With
Lopez and Dempsey as the DNs, it's going to be tough. Middletown North, like you said, hasn't won a game against a team that won, but two teams that whoever wins this game is going to be probably in a position that most people didn't think they would be, 3-1.
Right, and another game that I think has big divisional implications, Point Borough against Raritan, huge game in that division. Point Borough could take a really big step towards locking down the division title by going to Hazlitt and getting this win on Friday night. Raritan, this is the spot they love to be in. Everyone writes us off. We're the underdogs. We're supposed to get beat. This is supposed to be a romp, and the next thing you know, they're keeping it close in the fourth quarter, and and all of a sudden, who knows? But that's a tall order against this Point Borough team because no one has been able to touch them so far. And again, if you look at comparatively, Point Borough beat Manasquan with Brett Patton and everybody 39-13. Raritan escaped with a 1-point win against Manasquan last week. So on paper, Point Borough the heavy favorite here. I mean, how do you see this game?
You're right. I mean, Raritan's won 3 games by one score. I mean, they played Matawan, Monmouth, and Manasquan into overtime. And
you were at that game. I mean, Raritan had some injuries, like some guys taken off the field against Manasquan too, right?
Yeah, hopefully they're okay. I don't want to mention who they were and all that, but they played 3 close cardiac games, like you would call it. So they're battle tested. Let's just keep it at that. As a coach, you want to see how your team does with adversity. The game's going back and forth. Well, they won all 3 of their games. So they got to feel pretty good about themselves. And they haven't been 3-0 since 2015. So, you want to play. I don't think you want to say house money, you're playing win all that because you're Raritan. You play better football as the year goes on, and that's going to be a big game within the division.
And also another big division game on Friday night in the small school division. You got in the Patriot division, Keyport going to Shore Regional. And Keyport getting that big win over Point Beach kind of, I think, put them right up there as a top contender. Shore is always a top contender. They're coming off a 58-0 win over Keensburg. So to me, this game could potentially decide that division. I mean, it's not in stone, obviously, yet, but I would think the winner of this, you still have Asbury Park out there as a wild card, very talented team. But to me, the winner of this game is going to, I would say, be close to being in the driver's seat there in that division.
Now, Nazir Treadwell, we always talk about him, but the way to beat Kaz is you got to win the trenches. Ryan Burns, Kevin Fitzgerald, they got to dominate or at least neutralize because, again, to beat Cosentino, you got to win the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Lucas Rosa onshore regional. He's averaging He's averaging 7.9 yards a carry.
Yep.
So in that wing tee, they're going to line up and come right at you. And if you can't match them up front, you're in trouble.
Jackson Whitaker, 6'4", 230 DN tight end. I compare him to my kid that I had, Sean Morris, from a couple years ago, but he's bigger, and that's scary. Because my player was very good. This kid right here, I think, is a big Division I football player.
Well, and that's the thing. And he's one of the most elite pass rushers in the Shore Conference where if they can make Keyport one-dimensional where they're in passing downs, then they can unleash Whitaker to just get after the quarterback. And that's the situation they want to be in. And Keyport wants to definitely avoid that. I mean, Keyport's biggest issue is they're getting behind a lot. I mean, all of their games are like crazy comeback wins in the fourth quarter. And Shore, because of the way they play offense, they can sit on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to get behind against them because they might take 7 minutes off the clock on one drive. So I think that's going to be big for Keyport to just try to stay within striking distance, within one score, and hit Shore with some big plays. Use your speed. Try to get Treadwell out in space. He scored on a 60-plus yard screen pass last week. So the screen game. Stuff like that, I think that's how you're going to have to counteract them.
Interesting matchup. Mike Furlong, the punter kicker at Shore, is definitely a weapon for him too. So, I mean, Shore divvies up the football a lot too, so nobody's really getting big stats one side or the other.
Alex George, though, also over 6 yards a carry. So they got multiple guys back there who can hurt you. But you're right. So much of it comes down to the line play. If they're going to move the ball 4 yards at a time, they're just going to drain the life out of you and go on these 6-7 minute drives and just exhaust you, especially at the Group 1 level. If you don't have depth and they wear you out, they can really, drive the score up in the second half. Yeah, when you're looking at just some other games to keep an eye on this week, obviously the American Division always loaded with the top 10 teams. You got Wall searching for their first win, Middletown South trying to bounce back from a really tough game against RBC. So that to me is a big kind of swing game, especially as far as these teams' state playoff hopes are concerned. Another interesting game, Marlboro at Howell. Marlboro trying to go to 4-0. That's a very rare start for them. They're making that push to be right there in the division title conversation. You gotta say it right now that they're one of the bigger stories in the Shore. But now in this next stretch of 4 games, we're gonna find out if it's for real.
Now, Scott, we talked about this earlier. Howell lost a lot of 50-50 games last year. They lost 5 games, right? And now they're at the same situation. They're 1-2, and they're looking at almost a must-win game against a good Marlboro football team who wants to keep it rolling. So this is a very interesting game right here. Could it be an upset? I don't know. But Howell's good enough to win this game, but Marlboro's on a roll. They're just tough right now.
Right. I mean, this is the season they've been pointing to for a while now. I mean, and it's not just, I know everybody knows Cassidy and some of the others, but, Ryan Mendez, leading receiver, tackler, Anthony Tropiano, Matt Cassidy, we all know is a great offensive player, but he also has 34 tackles on defense. So yeah, this is what they've been pointing to as a breakthrough season now for a while. And now another game that's almost a little surprising at this point. Somebody's going to get their first win when Central heads to Lacey. Like, given those two programs, especially Lacey, it's surprising that we're this deep. I know Central's been really hurt by injuries, but yeah, that game is the first team is the team's going to get their first win in that game.
I coached for 6 years in that rivalry. Doesn't matter what your record is, you throw it out. The communities bond, they get together, and that Lacey Central is a fierce rivalry. But I'll tell you right now, we talked about this earlier. I don't recall ever mid-season Central and Lacey not having a win playing each other. So
right.
It's going to be a little different dynamics, but these kids are going to be going balls out, and you see a good hard-nosed football game. Someone's going to come out with a win, and then the other team is not going to be used to being 0-4, not used to it.
And you have two teams favored that are looking to bounce back from tough losses. Jackson Memorial is playing winless Freehold. Brick Memorial playing winless Neptune. Those are two opportunities for those teams to get wins after a tough loss last week. And then another game that I think is a very interesting swing game. Brick at Red Bank Regional, as far as again, making a playoff push, getting wins now to start stacking towards 4 or 5 victories to try to get you into the state playoffs. Brick's won a couple in a row. RBR's coming off their first win. I think this is an interesting kind of toss-up game.
It's a tricky game for Brick Township because Red Bank's explosive. Not as good on defense, but offensively, they move the football, but then they shoot themselves in the foot with penalties or a turnover. So Red Bank could easily be 2-1. So this is a tricky game for Brick. If Brick gets to be 3-1, I didn't see this as happening in the beginning of the year because they're very inexperienced guys. But Red Bank is a dangerous football team at home, got the win under their belt with Pierce Olson and the receivers Hicks and Guyon Martin. They're dangerous. And Jasir Jones, there's some weapons. So Brick's got their handful playing Red Bank on the road.
And then we look at another big divisional game that I think maybe have snuck up on a couple people. I don't know if you would have said before the season, hey, the St. John Vianney Manasquan game, that's going to be a really crucial game. But Manasquan's going to have their backs against the wall here. They're staring at 0-3. St. John Vianney's won 3 in a row. And they're looking to step up and say, hey, we're one of the prime challengers to Point Borough in this division. Swan was missing Brett Patton. They've kind of been discombobulated these first couple games. I think that there's a lot riding on that game.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Patton's playing in this game, and if he's not, they're going to be in a little bit of a hole. But being 0-2, Manasquan is not used to doing that. Jameer Howard is going to have to take the load. St. John Vianney's doing a great job playing good team football right now. And the main thing is they're believing, and they're playing with high energy. So they're scary right now, St. John Vianney's at Vianney. So Manasquan is looking at almost a must-win game against the St. John Vianney team.
And then, not the easiest spot for Long Branch. You come off a shutout loss to Southern, really tough loss. They get an interception there in the end zone at the end, and then now you have to play Toms River North, which has just been a threshing machine since the minute the season started. That is a really tough game for Long Branch to try to have to right the ship after last week.
There's going to be a lot of athletes on the perimeter from both teams. Long Branch has got dudes too, Shamar Williams, Mike Hall, Reevy, but Toms River North is massive up front, massive. And their linebackers, they're the guys in the box, the linebackers, the linemen, the running back, they own the box, Toms River North, and that's why they're winning. But they could play with anybody in the skill-wise, but that separates them from every other team. So Long Branch, I don't think, is as strong in the box with their D-line. So Toms River North will probably be imposing the run game with those massive linemen.
And then we have your guy, Tyler Douglas, Ocean, heading to Toms River South, looking to keep that push going for a division championship. And then we have Jackson Liberty heading to Manchester, is trying to get those good vibes back that they had, the 2-0 start after the tough loss to Matawan. They're looking to get Jackson Liberty doesn't have a divisional win yet, so they're looking to break into that column. And again, Manchester, a team that state playoff berths have been pretty rare in their history.
Yeah.
So you get a win here, you get to 3 wins, like you're really getting close to, it's becoming more of a reality.
It's a huge win at huge game at Manchester. 3-1. That's a big rivalry. Jackson Liberty, Manchester. Anyone who wins, it just kind of resurrects their season again. But can you imagine Manchester being 3-1? That would be a good statement for their team.
And then you have your old squad, Barnegat, heading to Toms River East, which is coming off its first win over Pinelands. Again, I think this is like we're getting to that separation point of, are we going to have a shot at the state playoffs or are we not? And these are the type of games that send seasons in different directions.
Toms River East 1-2 could just as well be 2-1. Barnegat 2-1. This is a huge game for Barnegat to get to 3-1 and make some games important later in their schedule. But East needs to win this game. This is a must-win for both teams. It really is. So I think this is a 50-50 game. Playing at East, it's probably going to be a tough game for Barnegat. East can't make any mistakes like they did in the Manchester game and also South. But this is a must-win game, I think, for East to get back on those winning ways.
And I think this other game that's very fascinating to me because Colts Neck wants to avoid this game has letdown potential, right? You just got a huge win over Jackson, in the final seconds, thrilling win. But now you have a Freehold Township team that's coming off a victory over Howell. 2 completely contrasting teams.
Yes, that's the word.
Comes out throwing the ball like crazy, whereas Colts Neck is just lining up and coming right downhill at you with Chris Scully. So, it's a different 2 different styles clashing there. But that's the thing about Colts Neck. It's like you don't want to get caught basking in last week, or you might get beat.
Again, you got those big, strong linebackers that stop and run in the box, and now they got to play the next week. Freehold Township that's going to air it out, run screens, draws. So it's a different style for the defense of Colts Neck too. So very interesting. We're going to see who adapts the most. Colts Neck is not going to stop. They're going to run power and right at you. So Freehold Township, they're practicing against their offense all the time in the summer and all that. So they're doing the finesse stuff. Now it's going to be big boy football, smacking them in the mouth. It's going to be interesting to see if Freehold Township could withstand the surge of the line.
And now you have 2 other teams whose season kind of is pretty much at a crossroads. I mean, you have winless Homedale going to a Monmouth regional team that's now dropped a couple in a row. So this is desperation time for both of these teams. You talked about must win just before in one of the other games. I think this is one of those games for both of these programs as far as if we're going to make anything of this season, we have to have this game.
Yeah, must win. Like you said, Monmouth has high expectations. Homedale lost a lot of good seniors. They have a lot of good program guys. They're going to have a lot of fight. This game will have a lot of fight. A lot of kids there working hard and all that. But, yeah, it's a must-win for both teams, without a doubt.
And then much like Central Lacey, Keensburg, Lakewood, 2 teams, somebody's getting their first win in this game.
That's a fair thing to say. Javon Gonzalez is going to be a threat for Keensburg. Keensburg has a couple kids out. Lakewood needs this win. It potentially could be another high-scoring game. But defense is going to win it. Somebody's going to have to stop the other guy.
And obviously, we can't forget there is a Thursday game this week.
And I would.
And you're going to be going there, right?
Well,
you're going to go check these teams out.
I could safely say this because my wife doesn't watch my show. It is every time I want to go somewhere, it's always like a back-to-school night. So I'm going to this game instead of back-to-school night with my daughter. And that's going to be a tough one.
Terrible parenting.
It better be a good game. It better be a good game because my wife's not going to talk to me for 4 days probably. But Pinelands.
Hopefully, that we'll be able to make it to the end of the year with your family still speaking to you.
I mean, I'm really interested to see the athleticism of Mattawan with still the power up front with the linemen. They're a really intriguing team. And John Tierney's doing a great job in his first year.
Look at Pinelands. What are they, 8 or 9 points away from being 3-0?
From being 3-0. And you never know what might happen. with that, but he's got it going in the right direction.
I mean,
But
Matawan definitely a favorite. They're looking to continue the momentum going, but yeah, we'll see how that works out for a rare Thursday night. Not tilt there in the shore and
last game.
And obviously you'll be there, and I highly recommend the hamburgers.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to eat out because my wife's not going to be cooking for me.
Yeah, the hamburgers at Matawan are great. So yeah, there you go. So you just get there a little early, tuck into a couple burgers, watch some short conference football, and pray that the divorce papers are not on the table when you get home.
And Asbury Park, we're going to end it where they play Point Beach. We don't know what's going on in Asbury Park. We don't know who's going to be there the next week. So they're like a wild card. They could be a team that all of a sudden they have everybody and beat somebody 50-0, or they might have guys missing and then, And
I mean, one thing that seems for certain is both of these teams can score. So you could see another. I mean, Point Beach just played a 33-30 game with Keyport. I could see another, and Asbury played a 30-22, I think it was, with Keyport. So you could see another kind of wild game between these two teams.
I could. Point Beach is they play hard for Coach. They really do. For Coach Zagone. Lost a heartbreaker last week. And that's a big difference, Scott. When your team is 1-2 instead of 2-1, even though it's only one game, that flipping of the win or loss is huge psychological for a team. Because the kids overreact one way or the other, and then all of a sudden they're in Mayday going the other way. They really are. But big week ahead in week 4. You and I are going to be at the game down in Red Bank Catholic. So we got a lot, and I'll be there Thursday, the night before. Some good football. Identities will start being shown by teams, and then we can start talking state playoffs and division and
this is it.
And this divisional championships.
These next couple of weeks decide everything for so many teams, and that's why I love games where it's like our season is on the line. Yes. Whether it's we're fighting for a championship, a state playoff, or anything,
right?
And we've reached that time.
I love coaches don't like to talk about that, but we're not coaches, so we're going to talk about state playoff scenarios and also division championships or who's contenders for the championship. We can do that, right?
Absolutely, can't wait.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And we'll see everybody next week.